Hello, my name is Brett Godin with United Refrigeration, and today is a follow-up video on expansion valves. Originally, we talked about the form and function of the thermostatic expansion valve on an evaporator, and today we're going to talk about troubleshooting that component. So the first thing to think about is the diagnosis of the valve is based on both the suction pressure and evaporator superheat values that you're reading on the system. The valve here is a metering device, and it's feeding the liquid and vapor refrigerant into your evaporator coil. And there's three basic scenarios that the valve can malfunction. The first is starving, which is simply not feeding enough refrigerant into the evaporator coil. This can be caused by many different factors, but some of the most common are flash gas in your liquid line. If bubbles or flashing occurs in your liquid line prior to hitting this valve, it takes up necessary space in the valve port for mass flow and restricts the feed of that refrigerant into the evaporator coil. Another thing to consider, if you remember about the operation of the valve, is this bulb element. This is the opening force of the valve. If for some reason it has leaked the charge that is inside this valve, either to a cap tube crack or any of those factors, it will not have an opening force and will starve the coil. A second scenario where the valve can malfunction is overfeeding the coil. This can be due to valve sizing. If the valve is simply oversized, that can lead to a factor of overfeeding the coil and low superheats and potential flood back to the compressor. The other thing to consider is, again, this bulb. This is your opening force. So if this is not attached to the cool suction line point and have a good thermal contact to that and is in a warmer airflow or ambient condition, that can naturally lead to the valve overfeeding the coil. If we are overfeeding the coil, the suction pressure will be elevated and the superheat value will be low in that operating condition. Lastly is hunting. Hunting is erratic behavior where your superheat values and pressures are going up and down significantly. One thing that can attribute to that is uneven distribution in the evaporator coil. So we want to check to make sure even refrigerant flow is happening through the coil. The second factor can be the valve is slightly oversized. The valve needs to operate in a variety of operating conditions, and sometimes it can be oversized in those conditions. One thing to do, if you suspect that, is to turn in your adjustment stem for the superheat multiple turns, driving the superheat value up. If the value then steadies, try to slowly turn it back out, back to your original set point. If that is not able to be maintained, that is indicative that the valve could be too large. If this video has prompted any further questions, please go to uri.com or contact your local United Refrigeration representative.